The story of Holy Week continues to mesmerize me, shock me, horrify me. I work my own way through just about every emotion that's in that story. The celebration and the joy of Jesus entering into Jerusalem amidst the shouts and the accolades of the crowds. Sadness and disgust at Judas, whose story of betrayal runs like a thread throughout the whole story. Familiarity at the occasion in the upper room where Jesus and his disciples eat together in the way that we always do as a church family when we take communion together. Understanding at the bravado of Peter and all the others who claim fervently that they would never, ever deny Jesus, and knowing in my own self how easy it is to get sleepy in those important moments, even when I'm fighting really hard to stay awake. I feel the agony and the frustration of the trial with its deceptions and twists and turns, the panic of Peter when confronted by 3 different people about his relationship with Jesus because of his own fear that he too might actually be arrested. And I have experienced the deep angst of Judas when he realizes what his actions have done. The sudden surge of confession to try to make things right. The feelings of guilt that linger for a very long time. And I know the hurt of having someone else chosen for what I thought should have been mine, and the finality of despair as you sense deep in your gut just how that choice is going to affect you. And the words, "Crucify him," ring in my ears and my eyes fill with tears every single time. And as they lead Jesus away and dress him up and mock him and spit on him, my heart aches because, like you, I've been in situations like that. And I see them happening to others still. And I weep that we as a people haven't yet learned from our history. And I think of all the times people have accusations hurled at them, things that they simply cannot respond to for a variety of reasons. I know that place too. All the answers that I could hurl back, but can't and won't. And my emotions hit their peak when Jesus cries out, my God, why have you left me?" Because everything that he has done in this life has been about growing into his relationship with God and telling that story and demonstrating to others what that looks like, sharing his life so that others might understand God and God's love for them. And for this one brief moment in time, he feels the agony of loneliness, of being by himself, of not fully understanding the why. And is there anyone here who, at some level, has not felt, whether just briefly or maybe for a long, extended time, so long that that has actually been named the dark night of the soul, the absence of the presence of God? And then there is the numbness that comes with the death of a loved one. And we get the women who traveled with and loved Jesus and are ready to take care of the precious body of their Lord. And the kind gesture of Joseph of Arimathea, who knows deep down that what has been done by his colleagues in the Sanhedrin is so wrong and tries to make it somehow right by doing something like providing a place for the body to be lain. And yes, we even understand the fear that causes cover-ups, the worry about the ramifications of actions taken that causes the pilots of the world to put guards at the tomb. So this is a story not only about Jesus, but about us. Not only a story about an event in time that changed the world, but a story that we see played out each and every day of our lives. Now, certainly what Jesus did for all humanity is unique. His journey to the cross showed us the depth of love that God has for every single one of us. It demonstrated that there is a different way to live and understand and hope and dream about the world we live in. That systems of domination and oppression and cruelty will not have the last word. But as his last words to the disciples in the upper room made it clear, this is not just his story, but ours as well. We are the ones who are to carry on the work that he began, and he died so that we might live fully, just as he did. During the days of the Berlin Wall, some East Berliners decided that they were going to send their West Berlin adversaries a little gift. So they loaded up a dump truck with all sorts of garbage, broken bricks, old tires, building materials, and anything else of zero value. And they drove the truck across the border, gained clearance, and dumped it all on the West Berlin side. Needless to say, the West Berliners were incensed and were going to get even with them. But fortunately, a very wise man intervened, giving entirely different counsel. And as a result, they responded by loading a dump truck with bags of food, scarce in East Berlin, clothing, also scarce, medical supplies, even more scarce, and a host of other essential items. And they drove the truck across the border, carefully unloaded it all, and left a sign that read neatly, "Each gives according to one's ability to give," a quote from Zig Ziglar. We find ourselves in a time that raises so many of the same emotions we experienced during the whole story of Holy Week. Loneliness, despair, horror, disgust, frustration, disbelief, pain of heart and soul, all of it. In the last several weeks, we have watched the horrors of countries doing their best to cope with a global pandemic. We've seen our retirement funds plummet, our church closed to public gatherings, our lives turned topsy-turvy. But we still have this story. We still have Jesus to show us that no matter what happens, no matter what needs to die in our own lives, no matter how ugly or unbelievable things get, God is with us. Love will win. A new day will come. No, it will never again be life as we knew it. There will be a new normal. And what we make of it will depend on our ability to give rather than to react, to love rather than to hate, and to look for good rather than to mourn what we no longer have. You see, in the end, love is all that remains. Love and life are finally the same thing. And we know for ourselves that once we have walked through death and darkness and despair. The story of Holy Week, our story for our time. Amen.